Hello, everyone. I see some familiar faces, so it's good you're back. You're those brave souls who return after so much work I've been giving you. Thank you for that. To those Spanish speakers who are very fluent, I will just say, buenos dias. But thank you. Thank you for being here. Today, I usually call this a Mexico media guide. The more luxurious way of saying this is harnessing the power of Mexican media. So what we're going to be doing today is discovering what's out there that Mexicans write and broadcast and podcast and the things that they do, so you get to hear their opinions about the country. So you don't just have to rely on what I tell you here, but you can, this is dangerous, this is risky. You can actually go out there and check whether anything that I'm saying is true, but that's allowed, that's fine. There's two things we're gonna do today is find out what to read, what to watch, and the second thing is how to move all that content in Spanish into English. Because I understand many of you, if not most of you, are not fluent Spanish speakers. So it's really important that I think that you get that. I think some of your other expats who are not here today said, I'm not sure I'm really interested in that. But you are the wise ones because you are going to get more than you paid for a thing. I think you really enjoy it, and it's really, really important. We are going to start with a video, of course, that I'm going to share with you so you get sort of an intro on the topic we have today. We are going to see a very professional, a very well-trained, even handsome individual telling you all about this introduction. So please pay attention to him.
It is always good to welcome you to a Connect with Mexico course. This guide to Mexican media will do two things for you. Number one, it will unveil the treasures of Mexican media content that is out there for you to enjoy. And number two, it will reveal the tools you can use to translate all that amazing Mexican content from Spanish into English. One thing that can be said about the Mexican media environment is that it has many, many sources. So while this course focuses mostly on media sources based in Mexico City, do know that regardless of where you are in Mexico, you'll likely find local newspapers, magazines, and broadcast stations to serve your needs. We will share some insights into what is worth looking at. This is, we will provide you with a list of Mexican media sources that we, as Mexican experts, know you will appreciate. And we will also add a few tips so that you can later search these and other Mexican sources for the specific topics you're passionate about. Our experience has taught us that many of the people who approach Connect with Mexico to learn about this country are not native English speakers. You may speak German or perhaps Japanese. You may have come from France or China and use English as a way to learn about Mexico through our platform. If this is the case, the Mexican Media Guide will turn out to be especially relevant to you because the skills you learn here will take you to translate Mexican media sources from Spanish into whatever language you prefer. Welcome again to this Connect with Mexico Guide to Mexican Media. It serves as an introduction to our community's online courses. We want you to know what we can do, and we want you to get a chance to judge the quality of our learning materials and methods. We have no doubt that you will be coming back for more of the Connect with Mexico experience.
I hope you could understand that. You know, just like politicians have movements, we have experiences, the Connect with Mexico experience. So I haven't done this in the other sessions that we've had. We're halfway there because this is our third, but I would like to share a little bit of that website Didi mentioned. Am I sharing right? Oh, there you go. Like she said, everything that I've done and how Connect with Mexico is focused is there. What I want to point out is that here on the website, you have services, and then you have a page that's called courses. And in courses, we have been working very hard on that. It's not easy to do those online courses, and we have 2 so far. One is called Welcome to these United Mexican States on your left, which pretty much talks about what we saw last Monday. Mexico in general, the patriotic symbols, the geography, all of that is there. And on the right, we have the Mexico Media Guide, which is pretty much what I'm going to be telling you about today, but in a much expanded way. These are online courses. You pay about $50 or $60, $1,250. You use PayPal or your credit card or whatever is easier for you, and the course opens for you, and you have all the time you want. It's on your own pace. It's a bit more formal than the Mexico Conversations. The Mexico Conversations is what we're having now. These online courses, and when I do in-person courses, they're more formal in the sense that they have a syllabus, they have a table of contents, they have exams, of course, and you even get a certificate at the end. We issue a certificate of completion for you. And we used to have it just for 2 weeks. Now we've decided that we'll open, if it takes you 6 months to go through a course, that's fine. So, I wanted you to know that that's there. Maybe you can take a look. If you open here, the Mexico Media Guide, before you buy anything, there is a whole description of the course. There is the table of contents I was talking about. I know it's tiny, you're probably not reading anything, but I just want you to know that things are there. And that's today's sales speech from our advertisers. Thank you very much. As we have done every day this week, I'll tell you what our ambitious agenda is for today. I'm not sure we'll fill it, but it's good to have high ideals and try to get those right. So she's the president. She's been watched by everyone, her followers and everyone else included. So she talks about sovereignty, about the United States being a brat child, and she's not accepting, even though she is the one who has the pressure from the Trump administration to do this. There's no doubt in my mind that she's doing this because the US government is pressure on them. So she sends out her Attorney General and her Security Secretary to send a message, not to Mexicans, but to the US to say, yes, we're hearing you. But the difference is that Hertz Manero and Garcia Harfuch are only being heard by you experts. The general public is never going to read that. They watch what she has to say, and that's all they know about the news, unless they're political junkies like I am. But this news is not designed for everyone else out there. The Attorney General and the Security Secretary are talking to Washington, not to us Mexicans. And this is why the message is different and the messenger is different. But you're right, the message is almost very different, but she sticks to, this is a sovereign country. This is what we do, this is how we do it, and that's it. And we're not listening to Washington. But she does send someone out to send a message to Washington that we're at peace. We don't need the tanks to come across the Rio Grande yet, okay? All right, thank you for those questions. El Universal, be very careful when you type that out. And I say that in the course because El Universal is eluniversal.com.mx. I don't think you can see that, right? And if you leave the MX out, you'll be taken to El Universal Caracas in Venezuela. And you don't want to get there just now. So be very careful with the MX. Most of them have MX, but not all of them. MX is the country's internet, ID signal. So El Universal is really good. This is one of those newspapers that is in between demanding a subscription and not wanting none. So in El Universal, let's move this to English again. See, that's big news today. But what I really want you to see here is, see this yellow, white cross over here on the opinion. Does this get bigger? Yes. Can you see that yellow? Okay. If there's a yellow tiny arrow there, you can read it. You need a subscription. This is the way the Wall Street Journal used to do things. I'm not sure they're doing that anymore. So they kind of put the paper online, and they gave you sections that you had to pay for to get you frustrated that you couldn't read them and be motivated to get a subscription. But everything else, this is opinion, everything else that doesn't have that mark there can be read, okay? So again, this time we won't deal with narcos, but we might go over here on the menu to say sports. Any knowledge about sports in Mexico? See, here because we went to the menu and chose something that was kind of not on the web, on the front page, they moved us back to Spanish. See that? So we move it back to English again. Now you get the publicity according to what stuff you like, right? I know you don't even know what football is. I know you don't know we're having a World Cup in this country next year. But anyway, I just wanted I wanted to emphasize that this is not all about politics and narcos. There's a whole bunch of other stuff. I've encountered a couple of Americans who do know that Guadalajara is the big rival of the America in Mexico City, that there's two Mexican leagues, that, I was really impressed about him knowing the charts and the teams and the leagues and all that. I don't know that my dad was a fanatic. I was telling Larry, he had spreadsheets of how many goals there had been every week, of what he was an expert, and I think his obsession with soccer, football, got all of our three brothers, gay or not. We have no interest. We don't watch any matches. We saw so much of that in our youth that we've had enough. But, you're still entitled to. El Universal is moderate. It is a common government supporter on certain topics, but always including diverse voices from the opposition as well. It is a national newspaper. It's been there for a very long time, and you can rely on it. Let's show you one, in case you have a few dollars there that you don't know what to do with, or pesos. Reforma is a right-wing sort of newspaper, but it is very high quality. They have great stuff. They really do investigative reporting. They have very good writers, but they are so mean that they let you see the front page like this, but anything else you want to read, you will have to get a subscription. We're not even going to try. Some papers in the US, I'm not so sure here, I haven't seen that in Mexican newspapers, but some in the US, you go in and they say, oh, you have 3 articles free for this month. And then you really have a hard time choosing what you're going to read. Mexican papers, none of them do that. You either get part of it or the whole thing. Reforma is very good. They're a bit tilted on the right. They are really critical of the government, but they have great content. And they have the Sunday magazine that is also very good. But you do have to pay for it. And as is often the case, there's different subscriptions on most papers. You can get the hard copy edition on your door, or you can just get that and the digital edition, or just the digital edition, which was most of us do, right? Again, I moved everything to English so you can get an idea of the headlines today. I'm going to try to go a little faster because time is over us. La Jornada. La Jornada is very pro-government and a little bit on the left. So if you're do you see that window that I'm seeing? Not at all. Right now, just like I have when I right-click here, right now there's a little window there that says Spanish or English. My software there asks me whether I want to translate it or not. So I can do the right click or use that little window that I have with Spanish and English and choose from there. And you can go back and forth. I was talking to someone earlier today. This is also a good way to learn Mexican Spanish because you can cheat and read the thing in English and then move everything back to Spanish and read it again and see how much you can get. It's called totally cheating, but it's a good way to try to get Spanish into you. And this is, again, La Jornada is very pro-government. You know, let's see. I'd like to get, let's see if we can see the cartoons. Mexican cartoonists, political cartoonists are amazing. And La Jornada, oh, thank you. What am I, blind or what? Thank you, thank you. So we may take a look at one of those. It has something for everyone. Bombing Mexican cartels, executive order on the left. From some, I take their visas. From others, I take their human rights, he says. You know who this is. He has been visiting cartoons a lot. Of course, cartoons are difficult because you do need to know a little bit more about Mexican politics just to make sense of them. That was part of my job. But they're still fun to watch. And we won't be doing that today, but just know that if you take this image and move it to Google Translate images, Google will translate this image for you and put that in English. When we talked about Sheinbaum yesterday, remember there was her wife and her parents, her husband and her parents and all that. That was a newspaper image that I translated into English with Google Translate images. So instead of writing words, you choose images and you throw the image there and Google Translate will move it to English. So strictly speaking, you could also, even if this is all in Spanish, what I'm saying is the image won't be translated by this Google Translate thing we're doing now, okay? Is that fair? Okay. Do remember that if you become a customer and go on to our media guide course online, the list is there, all the newspapers, what they're like. I'm gonna jump over them right now because then time runs out. But I do want to go through a couple of weekly news magazines. Proceso is a really good choice. It comes for free. Have any of you heard about Proceso before? Cool. There you go. So this is a weekly news magazine. It's very against the government. They are very critical of the government, and they have been here as well for a long time. And what is good about this type of magazine, just like in the US, you know, Newsweek and US News and World Report and all that, even the Atlantic and all this, I'll show you a couple that are similar to the Atlantic, is that you read the headlines and you kind of know what's happening, and then you go to your Sunday newspaper edition or to a weekly or monthly news magazine and get the real story, the in-depth story and the background and all that. I like doing that because it makes sense. It makes more, helps you to make more sense of the news. And also, that's a way to understand this. So I had to do these all the time. See, this is more a little bit in-depth. The extradition of drug lords, a failed policy in Mexico and Colombia. Remember the US, because Mexico turned so much into Colombia, we were just following the same steps, and we are now where they were in 2000, the violence and all that. We had a Plan Colombia brought up by the US, and then we had a Merida Initiative, remember that, with President Bush? The Merida Initiative against the cartels was a copy of Plan Colombia for Colombia, which was about bringing money for intelligence. We got a couple of helicopters, those Black Hawk helicopters that the Mexican Air Force got. And they was just putting money into Mexican law enforcement and the army to go after the lords, the kingpins. But this is an opinion piece where I'm sure they're going to say, we are getting nowhere with that. See, this is a little bit, they don't like US policies too much either. Can you see that? Are they lying or are they close to the truth? What do you think? You're American, you must know. Well, most of you are American. Okay, so make a note for proceso. Let me see if I can tell you. It is center, moderate, leaning liberal, but very often critical of the government. And because you're here, and of the US as well, of US policy as well. Let's go to this other one. This one I really like. This is one of those that I tell you looks more like the Atlantic. It's called Nexus. Can you see the title there? Yes, Nexus. We move that to English. They start with a cartoon this week. And these are the type of, this is pretty much just opinion. This is just analysis. This is just what's happening in the country this week, and we will get into it. Do female politicians reduce violence against women? Remember, this is a woman's presidential term. President Sheinbaum even created a women's ministry that wasn't there before, to protect the rights, to give them more opportunity and funds. They're still kind of learning the ropes and knowing what they have to do. This is bureaucracy, but I guess the idea is good. Some people don't like it because we have many ministries as it stands, so we just got a new one this term, but this is a woman's presidential term, and she wants to make a point about that. Pemex, a chronicle of the oil company in 3 acts. So of course, if you go to let's go to the female politician. There's the authors, and then you can have a really good reading about what they think. I think we have 2 minutes for someone to read. Those of you hiding in the back, can you see the screens? Remember, in this classroom, you can't hide. It doesn't work to go all the way back there. You're allowed to move up front to read if you need to.
I think I can see it.
Cool,
Thanks.
cool.
In Mexico, violence against women is a serious problem. More than 70% of women experience it at least once in their lives, and on an average, 10 are murdered every day. It is not surprising that more than 94% of the population considers it a serious problem, and it is a central issue in politics. At the same time, women have gained political presence. Mexico is the 4th country with the highest representation of women in Congress, and women's representation in municipal governments has increased significantly. The proportion of female mayors has grown from 14% in 2015 to 26% in 2018. Furthermore, since 2001, all 3 levels of government have created multiple institutions to prevent and address violence against women.
Thank you, that was amazing. You can be an anchor already. Thank you for that, Lynn. Like I said, when I introduced these sessions we're having on Sunday and Monday, when I say I want to give Mexicans a voice so they have a chance to tell you their views and their stories, this is what I'm talking about. It's not me here giving my story, which helps, I hope, but you get into those excellent magazines, you eventually can learn who the authors are. So what are Mexicans thinking about Mexican women? How are they doing? Did you know that we get about 10 killed each day? You know, that's amazing. Women are not doing very well, even though we have a woman president. So my idea is you get into the topics. Maybe this is not your topic. Maybe someone here on my right might have chosen Pemex for sure. Pemex in 3 acts. So whatever it is that you're interested in, or if you just, let's read about Mexico, and you'll find a bunch of interesting stuff, and you have no longer the excuse that it's in Spanish. So you can move all of that into English. Again, I'm gonna skip a bunch of these magazines, but there are many that are very good. So we have time to move to YouTube and a little bit of broadcast things so we don't get lost here.
Carlos, I have a comment.
Yes.
I think it would be possible to have a workshop or two for people who want to have hands-on experience with how to access those translating tools that we could arrange for here.
Well, yes. Like I said, you know, this all sounds like a commercial, but like I said, I go much more deeply into how to do the translating thing in the course. The online course has me on screen guiding you on what you're supposed to do, on where the extensions are and all. But you're right, the technical stuff is really difficult, like I said, because we all have different computers and systems and stuff, and if it's Android or Apple. Yes, I'd be happy to try to do that, but because I'm not an IT person, really, I'm not sure I can solve everyone's problem. My call really has been, you know, now you've understood that there's tools there somewhere, so maybe you have to go to Google to find out how your system can do that. But I'm not talking about something that's really, really difficult. But yes, that's something we could do, and a lot of that is in the online course that I have there that we wouldn't have time to check on. But the basics are there, and again, I just think, even though you don't know, you probably didn't know this existed, there's something there in your tablets and computers that will do this for you really easy. You just need to be patient, like you're patient with me, and that will do. I was going to tell you a lot more about Mexican broadcasting, but because I do want you to know where they are, we are going to do the same thing as we did with the magazines, but just with, here we go, with the, so for broadcasting in Mexico, we are going to rely on YouTube. Everything we're going to be looking at just now is on YouTube. The reason is, if you turn on your TV and watch Millennial TV, maybe your computer has something about subtitling there in English. I don't think that's very common. Maybe your Samsung TV does that. But I found that one of the best ways of doing that is going on YouTube and using the translation subtitling thing. If you've been here this week, these last 2 days, you saw me doing that all the time. Remember? We watched a lot of videos, and I had to be moving them around so they wouldn't be on the wrong place. But you saw those Spanish language content in video with English subtitles. I even said this is our revenge because we've read so many English subtitles that now is your time to read them as well. Movies in English that are subtitled in Spanish, I'm sorry. And now, you know, I understand also, do know that YouTube is introducing this dubbing system as well, where instead of subtitles, you get dubbing. I have seen that, and I have used that with Millennial, but to be honest, I think it's like the beta system tryout, and I don't think you can, I think it's just an option that when they have it on the video, they give it to you. And what I have seen and heard dubbed into English from Spanish sounds very good. You know, and this is a broadcast station that has good Spanish, so what you get is really good. So we're not going to do that today, and I think the subtitles will just be enough. But I do want you to know that that is there. So remember I told you that Millennial newspaper has a TV station and a YouTube channel. This is it. This is the Millennial TV YouTube channel. That's where you're going to get the broadcasts I was talking about that are on Mexican TV, and you're going to be moving those into English. So because this is just a standard page, we will move our headlines to English, right? They stay in Spanish on the screen because that's an image, but you can see the headline right underneath that used to be in Spanish 5 seconds ago in English, okay? What I usually do is just go up here to the menu and just click on videos. Not so much on what was just updated, but the videos in general. So here are some of the headlines. Is there anything that catches your fancy? Oh, here we go. This is a little bit long. It's 5 minutes. Okay, this is the daily press conference. We might talk about that tomorrow. So what's important here is on your menu down here, you see the closed caption button there, CC. You click on that. Oops. I think I'm going to bring Matt down here to help me. Oh, here we go. You right-click on the CC, and you get here. I'm sorry, I was hitting the wrong button. It's the controls here, right next to closed captioned, and you have subtitles here. Can you see that? Subtitles is the third thing, and then you click on it, and then there's an on-off thing. You first want to turn them on, but here you have the auto-translate. You want to go right on the right of the CC down here, mode, to the menu for control, the control menu, if you will, and what you'll get is the subtitles, and in subtitles there's something called auto-translate. And in auto-translate, a bunch of languages will come up, and you will choose English there. Can you see that? Yeah, Spanish to English. That's it. And then once you have programmed that, all you need to do is turn the closed caption on or off. You push, and there's that little red line. Let me see if we can do a little bigger. And they show up. You turn it again, and it's off. So we do here, and because I have told it to translate from the original, the vernacular Spanish into English, that is what we get. And then we get this lady to speak.
La mujer a la presidencia de México es un símbolo. Y lo digo porque no es un asunto personal, no es Claudia Sheinbaum Pardo, que llegó a la presidencia como si fuera un esfuerzo personal. Es producto de años de defensa y de lucha de los derechos de las mujeres. Y también parte de la transformación que estamos viviendo en nuestro país. Por eso yo digo que no llegué sola, que llegamos todas las mujeres mexicanas a la presidencia de la República.
What you just heard is one of her big messages. This is not a woman president. All Mexican women are standing here beside me, and we all arrived at this office together. And that's part of the reason she created this new ministry. Because, she's a woman. You notice behind her, the symbol of her presidency is this indigenous woman with a flag in the back. So it's all about women. So again, you want to watch a little broadcast from Mexican television, you go to YouTube, you translate the main page of the YouTube channel. There's Televisa, there's Univision is a little bit Mexican and a little bit American. I'm not sure if you heard of it. It's all in Spanish, but it covers Mexico a lot and the US. And there's TV Azteca, where I worked for a little bit. They have national evening newscasts. The difference is that you guys have it like at 6 p.m., right? We have them at 10:30 at night. You have dinner at 6, we have dinner at 9. So this is the difference. If you are there watching for the 6 o'clock news evening, it's not going to happen. You need to go all the way to 10:30. But again, what's going to happen is you're probably going to be in the morning watching the previous night's evening newscast. They're there. I don't think we have time because I really think it's important that we look into the acronyms and all that. I think that will help you a lot. But if we have some time after that, we might come back to this. But the idea is you use YouTube, most major television channels you see online. If you have a cable system, and I know you all have very complex cable systems, with so much stuff that we didn't even know was there. But go into the Mexican channels, and you will find Milenio or ADN 40, ADN 40, which is also on, in the air all the time. And if you, in YouTube, you can see that it's very likely those guys will have something on YouTube. We use YouTube because that's where we can translate things into English. You know, this is really important because if you try to watch Milenio say live as it's being broadcast on YouTube, you can do that, but you will not get the auto-translate option there. It has to be published, there has to be a little bit of a process, and then you can pick it up and translate it into English. If you try to translate the live broadcast on YouTube, you won't be able to get it because YouTube doesn't work like that. Was that confusing or kind of clear? My idea is just like in the newspapers, you like a headline, you click on it, you translate it. This is the same as reading an article in newspapers, just the technology changes a bit. And this is a YouTube characteristic. So regardless of whether you're using Macintosh or Microsoft or whatever, this is something YouTube gives you. This is not something you bring from somewhere else. That's really important. So wherever you are, as long as you're on YouTube, you will have these options, okay? You want to hear President Sheinbaum? You go there. You want to see Attorney General on how it was reported on the newspaper, but you want to hear him, you go to YouTube and you say, what does this guy look like? And what did he say this morning about it? You will find something about that news, that piece of news we saw on the newspaper on YouTube for sure. It takes a little clicking around and just, you know, you have to be patient. But once you're there, you will really understand the news and Mexico very differently. Let me just show you, okay. I think it's really important we go over the translating things because I don't want you to get confused when that happens. Okay, let's take a little bit of a look into this. I'll grab my cheat sheet here to even read it to you. So I think it's really important, now that you know the technical tools, the IT stuff, sort of, that you understand some of the things about translator. When I first got my job at the US government, all I did was translation. That's what they wanted. Then I moved out to do many other things, but the first thing they really wanted was a Mexican Spanish translator that would move things into English that American officials could understand. I was often told, you need to translate Mexican media stuff to us US officials like we were reading the New York Times and not the Reforma newspaper, which makes total sense. You know, that was a way of translating. So I made this list for you. The better the original, the better the translation. I was talking about that. The quality of the Spanish content itself will clearly determine how good the resulting English translation is. Translators often say that a translation can only be as good as the original. So we recommend you stick to sources with good writing, professional authors, and high-quality standards. You only need to look at a few items to quickly determine how good your source is. The presentation and design of the source itself often determine how good the writing and the argumentation will be. So you look at, you need a little time to explore the website, the newspaper and all that, and you will be really knowing they're on the left and knowing they're on the right, that will show, and how good the writing is when it comes back translated will be shown just by the design and the way of the writing. Then we have the same quality concerns are true for broadcast. Of course, if you're watching Mexican 16-year-old YouTuber and he's talking about his barrio and his bike and how he's fighting the other gang, the Spanish is not going to be very academic. So what I'm saying is, you can watch it, it's fine, but Google will have a very hard time bringing English to you there. I see it because some of the Americans I meet in Vallarta and some of the ones I had in Mexico City are like, yes, but I want to get the slang. I want to get this Mexican Spanish when they don't even know the verbs and prepositions and all that. Slang is a higher level of Spanish. So if you want to get there, you have to have really the basics of. So some of them watch those YouTubers who are 16. They had a good time, but they could understand nothing in Spanish or in English. So I don't recommend that just yet. I'm talking about the YouTube broadcasting channels, which is pretty much this. Slang gets in the way, yes. Then good authors, good translations. At times, this is not so much about the source, but the author. Some Mexican intellectuals, analysts, writers, and experts often publish in different media outlets. So if you find an author you like, you might as well follow them regardless of the apparent quality of the source itself. That's the same in the US, right? You call it syndicated columnists, don't you? And they publish here and there in magazines, in local newspapers. So if you find in the lots of reading of Mexican media that now you're going to be engaged in, you find someone you really agree with, you like his arguments, and you like his Spanish, his language, even if translated into English, you might as well follow them. You might end up reading books about them if they have been translated. So that's a recommendation. And then the more expertise, the easier the translation. The more you familiarize yourself with topics, places, and people, the easier it will be to read the translation. If you read items that touch on issues you know a lot about, the easier it will be for you to understand the translated item. That, of course, should not stop you from venturing into unfamiliar territory. This is what I'm saying about the websites. You know, we're talking about media today, but again, you want to open the Pemex website and see what you can find. You translate that into English. That's fine. And your experience, your story will also determine that. Because if I have examples of people I help out with the topic of Mexico, and they want to know, say, about the automotive industry. So if you work for Nissan or Volkswagen or GM in Celaya, and you're really into the topic, and you open the Mexican government's Energy Secretariat website or Transportation Secretariat, you will read that and understand that perfectly better than I would, even in Spanish, right? So it all depends on what you're looking for and what you're interested in. If you like painting and you're into muralism, you'll go to the National Museum of Art in Mexico City, open their website, translate it into English, and learn a whole bunch of things that you know a lot about. And that's the best way to learn about things that interest you. I'm not sure we're gonna have time to do the searching thing, but you can do easy searches on Google. I'll add, because I don't think we'll have time, I will tell you this. Searches in Spanish are so much better than in English when you're looking for Mexican sources. So I recommend, say you're interested about water treatment, water management, water waste in Mexico. This is an issue you are concerned about because you worked wherever in Canada or the US. You're by Niagara Lakes, Niagara Falls, and you want to know what's going on. So you translate your word, water, into Spanish, you get agua. Then you go back to Google and you say, let's search for agua. And boom, a lot of results will come. And then you translate those Google results that you don't understand yet into English. The source will be Mexican, most likely. You say, agua, Mexico. And then Google will throw you a lot of stuff in Spanish. You translate that results page from Google into English, and then decide what web page you want to go to. Once you're there, it's going to be in Spanish, but you move everything again into English. Does that make any sense? These are some of the tricks and tips. Because if you put water Mexico, you will get the New York Times, and we don't want to get there. Or you will get the Texas Water Commission or something, and we don't want to get there. We want to get to Mexican sources. What else is there? Oh, the acronyms, yes. How's our timing? I can only say goodbye, pretty much. You know, I think I will skip the acronyms for now because that's kind of a long list, but I'm sure you can figure out. Examples I can give you is CDMX, Ciudad de Mexico, Mexico City. What other good one do I have? Let me see. CSP. Mexico is going to overcome the U.S. Comma, not comma, but colon, CSP. Claudia Sheinbaum Pardo. So you read that headline is, who's even saying that? Well, the president is, right? But I'm sure as you familiarize yourself again with media, you will get to understand those acronyms. Let's run that Google search, because I got the impression you really like that idea, and maybe it'd be good for you to take a quick look. Translate. Be very careful here, because we have a Spanish there on the left, and you want to move that to English. And you're going to write, say, water. Or is there a topic one of you can immediately say, I'm interested about that? That's not water. Is there anything in your minds? Aquifers. Water aquifers. Oh my goodness, how do you even write that? ACQ? Am I missing something? AQI? Am I missing a U here? Thank you for that. So you get in Spanish. I moved over here from Spanish to English, so Google said, I'm sure this guy wants a Spanish over here. You go here and copy that. Then you go back to Google and put Acuíferos de Agua, México. See? You're the fluent Spanish speaker. And there you go. What do you get? A bunch of results in Spanish. So here you use your English translation magic and move all those results that are from Mexican websites to English, so you know what's going on. So of course you got the CONAGUA. The CONAGUA is one of those acronyms. That's the Mexican Government Water Commission, National Water Commission, Comisión Nacional de Agua. But now you can see what they're kind of talking about. This is also government. Can you see there? gov.mx. Let me make this a little bigger. Mexican Institute of Water Technology. Maybe even some of the headlines can teach you about things, right? Because you didn't even know. And there's, of course, 219. Everything else about search in Google stands, like the time and the type of content you want. We can even search government sites as opposed to education sites and all that. So let's give this a try and see what happens. We will have to move this to English. So this is the government of Mexico. And here is what you get on that. So again, this is a bit specific, but if that's your interest, that's fair. Again, what I just did was bring my search to Spanish, search Google in Spanish, and the Mexican results that I get, I move to English. And then when I click on the result, then I move everything to English again, and I can know what the Mexican government is saying. It's a bit of a step-by-step thing, but yes, you know, it all depends on what you're actually looking for. We can always go back to the results, move them back to English. Maybe you want to see the statistical and geographical bulletin, who knows? Ciencia UNAM. The UNAM is the National Autonomous University of Mexico. So what do you say we click on that? And then we move to English here. Aquifers, that's how you spell it. Good, our valuable source of water. And this is the National University telling you, let me see, 70% of the water in aquifers is used for cities. Larry, can we give the gentleman the mic and let him read a little bit of this. Let's see if he's interested or not. Yes. Just a couple of paragraphs if you can.
I got to move to do that.
That's all right, that's right. Because this is your topic, maybe you can even explain it to us.
It's a huge topic. It's an important topic.
Yes.
When we talk about aquifers, we refer to the reservoir of water that circulates underground. Aquifers form naturally when the Earth's surface absorbs rainwater. This absorption process occurs because the Earth's surface allows water to penetrate because it's permeable and such as soil, sand, and clay. I could go on here for you, but
Thank you for that. And thank you for the topic, you know, because
this is the topic that scares the hell out of me.
yes, water is a big thing. And you know, it runs deep, so we only got into the, it's good that it's got pictures so we can understand. Anyway, like I said earlier, cada cabeza es un mundo. So we all have different interests. We're all crazy about some things. We don't care about others. And the message today is telling you to read the Mexican press and the broadcast and all that does not mean you need to read about Sheinbaum or Trump all the time, all day. There's a whole bunch of things going on out there that you can benefit from just knowing how to move them into English. Not knowing Spanish is no longer an excuse not to read the Mexican media, okay? Guys, thank you so much for your patience for being here. Start reading up.